everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I filmed a video. Now it's time for me to get back into filming a little. It's now the time of year where companies are putting out their 2022 planners, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what they want to do for 2022 in terms of their planners and their journals. I'm the same, so what I want to do is I'm going to go through all of the notebooks, including my planners and my journals that I've touched in 2021, and they're all laid out here. And then for each one of these, I'm going to lay out what I think I'm going to do for 2022 and for the rest of 2021. If you want to see my original planner and journal lineup for the beginning of 2021, I will link it below and in the cards, because I will probably go into a lot more detail there. I'm going to move this out of the way and we'll start with my planners. Not much has changed for my system from the beginning of the year till now. It's just more about a discussion on the notebooks, especially some new notebooks that I've purchased during this year. Now, here are the 4 notebooks that I've used for my planner throughout 2021. When I say planner, I also mean my bullet journal because they're the same thing. So start off with the smallest one, which is my EDC journal. And I've shown this before also. It's just a notebook that I carry with me in my handbag. It comes with a pen inside a leather cover. This is from Popov Leather. I found that I like having this in my handbook for quick notes and for emergencies, especially if I need a pen. But in truth, I don't use it as often as I'd like. I just use my phone instead. If I wanted to write a note to remember later, I'll put it on my phone. If I have something in my bullet journal here that I want to transfer, I'll take a photo of it and leave it on my phone. But it's not as essential to my planning system as I thought it would be. Next, we have these 2 notebooks, which comprise my main bullet journal, where I put my monthlies and dailies and where the bulk of my planning is. I finished this notebook already. I moved into this in April, and I'm about to finish it. I've already put down that I will finish it in August 31st. And then I will switch to a new journal. For that, I think I'm going to make a change. Going into my next bullet journal, I want to use a bigger size. So this is the Hobonichi Plain Notebook. It's got 288 pages, and you can see the A5 size here is much bigger than the B6. I'm pretty comfortable with the A5 size in terms of using it as a journal, but as a planner, as a bullet journal, then it's something new to me. I'm hoping I can get through this notebook up until December, and then by that time in 2022, I'll decide, do I want to go to the B6 size again, or do I want to stay with the A5? I've always been comfortable in the B6 size. I've been using the exact same size since January of 2020, so that's over 1.5 years. I just already know that I like this size, but then I felt like I needed a change. And the only change I wanted to do was to move up to a bigger size. Now, the last part of my planner is this collections bullet journal. And this is in a little thin insert here from Paper Penguin Co. I have done a flip through of this before. It houses my bullet journal collections, all of the collections that I want to keep throughout the year, and I don't have to migrate those collections from bullet journal to bullet journal. This will last me till the end of 2021, that's for sure, but I'm thinking in 2022 I might go up to the A5 size as well. And for that, I have a couple of options. I did recently get this new notebook. I have 2 of them. They're slightly different. They're from the brand Kokuyo, and it's their Perpanep notebook. Now, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I do know that the way how they got Perpanep is they got the word pen and paper, and they rearranged the letters to get Perpanep. I picked these because they have 120 pages, and they have a lot of choices when it comes to what type of grid spacing that you want. Here, I got 4mm grid, and for this one, I got 4mm dot grid. They don't just have 4mm grid, they also have 5mm dot grid, 5mm square grid, 3mm square grid, and also a lined option. I think it's 6mm lined notebook. I thought that it was pretty nice. I wanted to see what the paper was like. Not only do they have different line options, they also have 3 different types of paper. You can see these lines here, they kind of represent the different types of paper. The top one is ultra smooth. This middle one, which is what I have, it's called the Sarah notebook, and it's smooth. And then the last option is textured. I got these notebooks from the Stationery Life and they only had this type of paper, so I wasn't able to try out the other different types of paper. But if you want me to do a review of this particular Sarah notebook, then I'll be happy to do it. I did pick this because I do like the 4mm spacing. The paper feels really smooth. Now this Kokuyo notebook has 160 pages, whereas this little insert, which always lasts me 1 year, has 80 pages. So it's going to be 40 more pages in a bigger size. I'm thinking I can maybe even fit 2 years of collections bullet journals in here. Either I can cut this notebook into 2 and use it for every year, or I can just keep multiple years in one notebook. I haven't decided yet. The other option that I considered for my collections bullet journal for 2022 is this Stalogy notebook. Now this is this full size or full year 368 days Stalogy notebook, but it's a new one for 2021 in that it has a dot grid now. Don't know if you can see that here, but there's a very faint dot grid. And compared to the grid version, which is usually what you get in a Stalogy notebook, it does not have the dates at the top and it does not have the timeline down the side of the notebook or the side of the page. The thing is, I thought this would be a 4mm grid, much like the 4mm A5 square grid of the Stalogy, but no, this is a 5mm grid. I'll probably find some other use for it. And anyway, this has even more pages than the Kokuyo notebook, which means I can probably fit even more years if I were to use this as my collections bullet journal. That's where we are in terms of my planner. In 2022 and for the rest of this year, I'm going to keep the same system. Now onto my journal stack. I do have 4 different types of journals, so I'm going to go through each one of these. The first type of journal here is my Longform journal or my main journal, and it's where I write the most. I tend to like fountain pen friendly paper because I use fountain pens in my journals. I'm mainly coming here to write and not decorate. So I have shown this before. This is the Nanami 7 Seas Cafe notebook, and I finished it in April, I believe. Yes. And I started it in May last year. Then I decided to move on to these two. I first started off with this Clairefontaine asterisk notebook. I did finish this in about 1.5 months. I think it's because I have only 144 pages in here, and this is a pretty big 8mm line spacing. But I did enjoy this notebook and I did enjoy this paper, and of course I did enjoy the cover design. Next up, I moved into my Life by Cleed Noble Note notebook. It's got 200 pages and it has a 2mm grid spacing. So I've started in May and I'm pretty much finished. I actually have exactly 1 page left to go. I have the pen test page here and then the back of this page, and then that's it. I do have a mixed reaction to this notebook because although it's nice, it lays flat very easily and it's mostly fountain pen friendly. I noticed that the paper, even though it is fountain pen friendly, is very inconsistent. And in those parts of the notebook where it's inconsistent, the fountain pen ink feathers a lot. It looks really ugly. I just really can't look at it. And it doesn't matter whether the pen is extra fine with less ink or it's broad, it will feather. And I always thought that when that happens, it might be the oils from my hands when I'm writing, like here, and I'm writing on the paper. But it doesn't appear to be from the oils because I would not have touched the page and it will still feather. The other thing that I didn't like about this notebook is the grid. It's a 2mm grid. So I'll show you the front here again. It is very faint, the blue lines, and you can see the grid here. Whoops. Now it doesn't absorb some of the inks when you write on top of it. So to show you what I mean, you can look at this journal, which I wrote with a brush pen. And you can see that there are blue lines across that word or inside the ink because the blue lines that were printed on here does not absorb the brush pen ink. So that's unfortunate. It's not as apparent if I was using fountain pen ink, but sometimes I can definitely see it. The next notebook that I want to pick to replace this main journal, I have two choices, and that's the Longform notebook and this Taroko Odyssey notebook. I do like this paper. I do think it's fountain pen friendly, and it's got a dot grid, 250 pages. I think I can do 250 pages in 4 months, September to December of this year. Whereas the Taroko Odyssey is something new. I bought it this year. I think that FOMO got to me because this uses a new paper to me, and that is the Cosmo Airlight paper. Now, I have used Taroko design books before, just not in this paper. And this particular notebook has 184 pages, and it's a dot grid as well. I did do a really quick pen test here the other day. The reason why I want to use this one first is because this one is older and this one is newer. But I also have an idea to use this as some kind of fountain pen related project, which I've been too lazy to start. So I'm thinking if I finish this, and by the time I finish this notebook, I have not started on said project, then I'll probably move into this afterwards. This is the second type of journal that I have, and that's my dream journal. I have done a setup video on this and I can link that below. And it's pretty much the same as before. I'm still not finished. You can see the bookmark here, which shows my progress. I'm about, I would say 70% done. And if that takes me to the end of 2021, that's great. This is the Midori MD notebook in the A5, and it's a blue dot grid. I do have another one of these notebooks that I've bought that's unopened. And I think once I'm done with this notebook, I'll just continue using the Midori MD paper. Because journal number 3 is my morning pages journal. I started off the year with this Longform 1917 notebook. I was meant to do two pages in here per day, but I kind of slacked off. There was times where I would not write in here for a week or more, even though this notebook would have lasted me about 4 months if I wrote in here every day, 2 pages a day. It really took me about 7 months, but that's okay. I did manage to finish this notebook. After which I moved on to this. Now this used to be a B5 notebook, which I cut down to match the A5 size. So I did flip it upside down when I started writing in it. But it is from Apica, and it's their official notebook. It's got 40 sheets or 80 pages. And I started writing in here, and I am exactly also 1 page remaining before I finish this notebook. I do like this notebook. I have more of these remaining because I bought it in a pack of 5. And actually I got 2 packs, so I had 10 at the beginning. This is number 5. This is going to be what's for my next morning pages journals. It is the Chuyu Culture. I don't remember what it's called, but it's from Chuyu Culture. And let me just say it's called a daily diary. It is in the B6 size, and it's an undated planner. So you can see every day they have daily pages. It's really more of a half-year planner. There's enough daily pages for half a year only. I like how it's pre-decorated. You can see some of the decoration here. It's like a watercolor effect. And there's, of course, a space for you every day to circle the day of the week. And then there's also a timeline if you really need it, as well as the date itself. Now that I've gone through what I want to do for my morning pages for this year at least, I have to reevaluate how I'm storing all of these morning pages notebooks. I will likely have 3 or even more for each year, and it's starting to pile up. Now, my morning pages, what I do is I write in them every day, or try to, but I never reread them. There's no point in storing all of these notebooks that I will never reread again. So I will probably insert a picture of my existing journals and how many there are. I probably want to dispose of them somehow in the future. And that means I don't want to use fancy notebooks for my morning pages journal. Like this was pretty inexpensive. I got it on sale and it was $1 per notebook. And I got 10 of these. It was $10 for the 2 packs. I think that's pretty reasonable for something that I use, write in once and then toss. This one by itself is rather reasonable too, affordable, except that the shipping was a lot. And this one, well, this is probably the most expensive journal out of all of them, but I did get this on sale, and I did check. It was around $13 because I got it. This particular color was on sale, and then I got a discount on top of that. And $13 I don't mind for a Longform notebook, but full price it's around $24, and that's all in Canadian. I need to find more notebooks that are fountain pen friendly and yet are pretty cheap or inexpensive, much like this one. I have come up with one other idea after I finish this notebook, and that is this. This is from Filofax, and this is one of their refillable notebooks. Or rather, it's not their refillable notebook, it's the refill of a refillable notebook. From what I can tell, this is what I got from the Filofax website, and it has a cardstock cover. So you can see it's pretty flimsy. It's held together by this spiral bound binding. And there is another version of this notebook, which is the actual refillable notebook, which is not this cardstock cover. It's a hard cover, and they have an elastic band so you can close the notebook. So I don't have that. It's like a disc bound, except it has spirals, and the papers are punched so that you can easily remove this. Now, it has lined pages, and I don't remember how many. I think 80 or 60, something like that. And I did try using some fountain pens in here. They were just fine. I believe this is 100 GSM paper. No bleed through whatsoever. And once I finish all of these pages, if I do use it for my morning pages journal, I can just rip them out and toss them. Then I can put in my own paper. The very first paper in here is one that I tried to put in myself, and it tears out like that. This is Fabriano paper, and I do have this almost in like a loose leaf format. The thing is, this Filofax notebook requires a special punch, or you have to buy the refills from Filofax. I punched this Fabriano paper with my Staples Arc disc punch, and this is the Filofax. So if I put it against this black background, you can see the difference in the shape. This is more of like a mushroom shape, and this is more of like a wine glass shape. But it seems to work. Even if I punch it with this Staples punch, I can still put it inside this Filofax notebook. I'm hoping in the future I can use this as a temporary binding mechanism and then use up all of my loose leaf papers. Now we're down to the fourth category of journals, and this is my creative journal. This is in a Hobonichi Cousin Avec. I started using this as a creative journal in 2021. It has been mostly a success. You can see how chunky it's gotten, or maybe not as chunky as others, but for me it's definitely chunky. So I have enjoyed using this, but I will say I cannot do one page a day. In fact, it's almost the end of August, and for maybe about half of June, I stopped writing in here. And there is a second version of this book that I have not even opened at all. I can do this as a challenge, as a creative journal, but I cannot do it forever, or I cannot sustain it for an entire year. It shows that maybe there's some months where I just will not want to do a creative journal, and it ends up that these daily pages will become a waste. Of course, I can live with a couple of pages of wasted paper. I can even live with, if I don't even touch this notebook again, I'm fine with it. But I think that means for 2022, then I don't want to continue with this Hobonichi Cousin as a creative journal set up for the next year. I have decided that I do want to keep on creative journaling as much as I feel like it for the rest of 2022. I'm going to start ignoring all of the dates in here. If I want to start today, I will cross this out, or go to the first available page, cross it out, and just write my own date. Once I'm finished with this notebook, then I'm going to start on this. This is basically brand new, untouched, except for the cover, which seems to have some ink on it. Anyway, let me just show you the difference between a brand new book and this other book. That's it for my planner and journal update for 2021 and what I've been doing so far. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.